Just joining us, I'm speaking with EMF expert Camilla Reese on Your Supernatural Life here on Green 960, and she is the founder of electromagnetichealth.org and is coming out with a new site called emfhelpblog.com. Is that?
Yes, it will actually be part of the Facebook site called Campaign for Radiation-Free Schools.
About 15 years ago, I was buying a home, and I brought my feng shui consultant in. He had a Gauss meter, thank God, because he went into the bedroom, the master bedroom, and found that the EMF levels were off the chart on the headboard, where the headboard for the bed goes. And we discovered it was actually faulty wiring that was creating this high EMF levels.
Yes, wiring construction issues are really important too. They're not as prevalent as the problems from, say, the Wi-Fi and the microwave radiation, but and another newer issue called dirty electricity, which is when you get high frequency radiation on the wiring, which is very different from the kind of fields you'd be measuring, like with a Gauss meter, which you were measuring, which are magnetic fields.
Right.
There's and those can be when the wiring hasn't been laid properly, so that they are two wires usually are supposed to be very close to each other to cancel out the other's field, and so
right. Now I have a Stetzerized home. Now I have all those, I have the Stetzer meter and all that, and a Gauss meter. Now there must be other kinds of meters. What other types of meters
Okay, so down at if we think about the low end of the spectrum, the electric and the magnetic fields, there are meters that measure electric fields. There are meters that measure the magnetic fields, which is what you were using as the Gauss meter near your headboard. Then dirty electricity is what, as you move up farther into the intermediate range, that's what the Stetzer meter measures. And the Stetzer filters neutralize when you find you have a problem. And then as you move farther up, you're in the radio frequency band. And so the radio frequency band requires a different type of meter. And it's more complicated to measure, actually, than just the dirty electricity where you plug it in and you see a number, or the Gauss meter where you could just literally see a number. The radio frequency is a little more complicated to understand, but I still believe that people can learn it. And the meter that I use and that I recommend to people is called the electrosmog meter. People can get it at emfsafetystore.com. And it is a meter that is the widest range available out there today, and it is a fraction of the price of some of the earlier meters that were measuring radio frequency radiation. And so it's got a big orange ball on the top, and it goes up to 8 gigahertz, and so it will pick up fields from things like the portable phones, which are sometimes at 5.8 gigahertz, and that the earlier meters would not. And then there also is the issue of the Wi-Fi networks. Well, sometimes you won't pick up the Wi-Fi network, but you know it's there because your computer shows it, and you know you can log on to the Internet if you wanted. And so for Wi-Fi networks, say if you're in a city and there might be like 30 blanketing you in your apartment from neighbors, the better way is to either use a computer to detect them or to buy a little gadget at Radio Shack for very little money that will tell you, they're designed to tell you where the strongest signal is. And so you can get a sense of, well, how much radiation is there here, but that's some of the more expensive. There's no one meter that measures it all, unfortunately.
Okay, but let's say if you wanted to remediate the radio frequencies, how would you do that? You'd have to turn off, if you have a router or router in your house, you'd have to turn that off, a wireless.
Yes, you want to. You definitely, first of all, you want to eliminate as much wireless as you possibly can. If there's no need to have a wireless connection between your computer and your printer, or your computer and your cable service for the Internet, make it a wired connection, okay? So people should be rewiring the most basic connections. Then you see what you're left with in terms of radiation exposure in your phone, in your home, like at the portable phones. Most of those actually that have DECT technology they're just off the charts high. You wouldn't want one of those by your bed. And in fact, even if it was 2 rooms away, it still might be affecting you. So they're really not good to have. So I tell people they should be going back to the regular landline phones with a wired connection. So then after you've done that, and especially at nighttime, this is incredibly important while you sleep, that your body's able to rest and repair. and so absolutely no wireless on at night. But eventually, you want to see what's left, and you check that out with a meter, and you have to know what direction it's coming from, and there are ways to seal your premises with paints that block the radiation. There are fabrics. A lot of the RF comes in through the windows, through the glass. And actually, one finds in high altitude, in like mountainous areas, that a lot of homes are built with special glass that it blocks the heat. And so this, they actually also block the microwaves, coincidentally. But so glass, there are films you can put on the glass. There are fabrics you can use as curtain liners, and but the worst thing you could do would be to seal up let's say you seal up your room or your house, and then try to use something that's emitting radio frequency inside. Because then you're concentrating it.
And so, if people want these coverings or paints or window coverings, they can get this on your EMF safety site as well?
EMFsafetystore.com, yes.
Safetystore.com. Okay, excellent. Now, the U.S. seems to be behind in protecting its citizens from radiation pollutions. Tell us what our other countries are doing in terms of cell phone safety and wireless standards.
Well, over a year ago, the European Parliament voted overwhelmingly to take precautions about this, and they are recommending that certain establishments be completely wireless-free, including schools and healthcare institutions like hospitals and daycare and retirement homes. They are calling for a review of the exposure guidelines that were set to guide industry in terms of what were safe levels of exposure. They're calling for a reduction to 1/10 of the levels of the ambient microwave radiation exposure by the year 2013, and many other steps like that. Now, they are not, they don't have any real control. They're making recommendations to their member countries, and some of the countries and some of the municipalities within different countries are starting to enact those into law. And so, but it's slow. It's not really happening too fast there either. And the wireless industry growth is just still running rampant. The U.S. has been behind the curve, but things have picked up recently. With in March, a representative in the state of Maine, Andrea Bolin, became the first to propose warning labels on cell phones. It did not pass. It'll come back up in the fall. But then the city of San Francisco, with Board of Supervisors, with the support of Mayor Newsom, has recently voted for two things. One, warning labels on the cell phones, and two, education at the point of sale. And so they're calling for people to hear about something called the SAR value. And that's good in the sense that it sensitizes people to know, oh, maybe there's an issue here I need to learn about, and maybe there's an issue, some concern. But in fact, it's a little bit misleading because the SAR value is not a measure of safety. It's a measure of physics, and it has nothing to do with the biological effects on the body from two of the three components of risk. It only is measuring or estimating the effect from the heating effect of the phone, and it's not measuring anything to do with the two other aspects of risk, which are the effects from the frequencies, like the talk and the modulation, and then also it's not measuring anything to do with the magnetic fields, which I mentioned cell phones and BlackBerries, et cetera, have as well. And those numbers, just so you know, a BlackBerry, when it is being used, the magnetic fields are so high and so much higher than the level that is known to create miscarriage that I just tell anybody who is trying to conceive or is pregnant to stay as far away as possible from those kinds of magnetic fields.
Okay, so we need to protect ourselves, and we can buy some of the things on your site. And in our remaining minute, like, what needs to happen to create safer wireless technology on a bigger scale?
We need federal level intervention, and Dennis Kucinich has just proposed he's about to propose legislation, he's announced it, that's going to be calling for the warning labels, more U.S. research. But really an important thing that needs to happen is to repeal a part of the Telecom Act of 1996 that took away your state and local government's rights to limit wireless in any way. So even if the community that you live in didn't want a cell tower going up, they cannot fight it on health or on environmental grounds. And that is a travesty, and it was the biggest power grab for the federal level since the time of the railroads. And it needs to be repealed, and communities need to be able to create safe communities for their residents.
Well, thank you so much, Camilla. It's been really a pleasure talking with you, and people need to check out the Campaign for Radiation-Free Schools on Facebook and to go to your site. Tell us
electromagnetichealth.org.